Hi there, it's Liz Yuille from Old Staples Crafts. Thank you very much for joining me again today. Today I am going to be showing you a kind of mix of here's one I prepared earlier and how to make it. So this is going to be the how I make it, and then we'll come on to the here's one I prepared earlier. So we are going to be using some of the lovely new colours in the new annual catalogue. Now, I know you can't get them yet, but they will be available from the 1st of June. Not long to wait now. Aren't they lovely that they stack like this? So we are going to be using Balmy Blue, Coastal Cabana, Mango Melody, Poppy Parade and Granny Apple Green for this particular technique. I'm using some shimmer white cardstock. This is, I think of as the happy medium between Whisper White and watercolour cardstock. You can get it wet, but you wouldn't want to saturate it like you do watercolour. But it does have that nice smooth finish. The watercolour cardstock is rougher, so it's not as easy to get a really crisp stamped image. And as the stamps that I'm using are, some of them are quite detailed, I do want to be able to get that crisp image. So I'm going to apologise for the weird light that we've got today. We're having some very odd weather. We had spring and now we seem to have pretty much every season going in one day. 2 minutes ago it was glorious sunshine and now it's kind of overcast, and I think it's probably going to be sunny again soon. So please bear with me on this. Let's see. I'm going to be using one of our spritzers. These come in a pair. They're, I want to say £2.75 for two, that sort of amount. You can fill them with pretty much any liquid you want. This is water. This is alcohol, and I just know it's alcohol because I've got that washi tape around it. And this is water and re-inker, but you can use alcohol and re-inker as well. So yeah, but this is water. So I'm going to start by, I've just got this kitchen towel there so it protects my surface a bit and absorbs some of the water. I'm just going to start by spraying my card with water, and I'm going to spray the back a bit as well because that helps keep it flatter. I just want to check that I've got all the corners, which I think I have. I've probably over wetted it a bit now, but it looks all right. Right, so that is that. I'm going to start with Granny Apple Green, and I've got some ink in the lid. You can, even with the new design, without re-inkers, you can still get ink in the lid. You just squeeze it in the same way. They're a little stiffer than the older style ink pad, but it's perfectly fine. So I'm just adding some ink to the bottom here with my aqua painter, and that's that. Close that up. I don't know why I'm holding the lid. Then some Poppy Parade. This is gorgeous. My poppies are actually coming out now, and this is the colour that they are. It is divine. Right, there we go. And I'm just cleaning off my brush in between colours, and because of the way that this nib, for want of a better word, is, because of the material it's made of, it cleans off really easily just with the water. Mango Melody, which is a lovely, it's a softer orange than Pumpkin Pie, which is a bit more in-your-face orange. So that I want going in between. So this is a real do you know what it is yet moment. So that's that. Get that clean. Close that. Stack it up. Coastal Cabana. I love Coastal Cabana. I think it's the, possibly need a bit more of that. So just squeeze. Just squeeze. And I tend to do from both sides just to make sure. And there we are. There's some nice ink in the lid. Coastal Cabana I think of as the junior version of Bermuda Bay. It's that same aqua tone as Bermuda Bay. but a softer version, as in paler. It's still as bright, I think, but it's that sort of aqua tone. I can see why everyone was raving about it. And then finally, Balmy Blue. Might need a bit of that, more of that as well. Balmy Blue I think of as a proper baby blue. It's a cleaner blue than Marina Mist was, and it's a slightly darker blue, well, quite a lot darker blue than Soft Sky, but it is definitely it's a blue tone rather than an aqua tone. So that's that. Don't need those inks anymore. Look, they all stack beautifully. If you want to know how to put your ink pads together so that they do stack beautifully, have a look at yesterday's blog post and video, because I go through all that. So this is our background, but obviously it's wet, so I can't use it as is. So in true Blue Peter fashion, here's one I prepared earlier. Let me just wipe the back. So it is reasonably flat. It's not completely flat, but it's reasonably flat. It's flat enough for our purposes. And I'm going to be using the Stamparatus. And I'm going to be using all 4 of the stamping surfaces, and I'm going to be showing you how to do step stamping with it. So this is a great project to learn some techniques. I have made a couple of, not changes, but additions to my Stamparatus. Basically this. It comes with both of the flaps, which as you can see are removable. There's this grid on the base, which is great when you're using red rubber, and it's got centimetres and inches. Certainly in the UK and Europe, the grid markings are in centimetres. I think, but I don't know because I'm not there, that in the US it's going to be marked in inches, but don't quote me on that. Then there is this mat, which is for when you're using photopolymer. I have added a piece of grid paper that I've laminated because I like the idea of having a grid on the top as well, because it means I can use this to line up my photopolymer stamps and my cardstock, which obviously with the red rubber you can use, but if you're just using just this, it's not as easy to line things up. So I am also going to use a piece of scrap grid paper. Now, certain rules when using your Stamparatus. Let me just remove that for the moment, and I'll come on to another rule. Always, always, always store your magnets on the base. One of the things that Stampin' Up will not replace is broken magnets. So bear that in mind. These are incredibly strong magnets, and if you leave them just on your work surface loose, they will eventually attract to each other and they'll come together with a bang, and they may well shatter. And there have been various reports, and I've actually seen it happen on a video where it's happened, and they shatter, and they can shatter into tiny pieces, which A means they're useless, but B is also quite dangerous. So do bear that in mind. This is not a toy, so this should not be used by children unsupervised. I have wrapped both of mine in washi tape, and I've done it in both directions, so I've got handles on 2 sides. Keep them on the base of your Stamparatus when you're not using them. When you're using them, make sure you attach them to the front and keep them apart still, because if you get them together they're going to be quite hard to split apart, but they at least won't smash together if you've got them on the base. So that's the first set of rules. Now I've made this grid. It goes the wrong way round because that's just the way it worked out, and I wanted the corner here, so because of the way the grid paper is put together, this was the way it came. I'm lining my cardstock up on the 14 centimetre mark. Now it doesn't actually go all the way to the edge because that's the edge of the piece of laminate, but so long as the piece of laminate is in the top corner, I know that the 14 centimetre mark will always be in the same place. So I can attach my cardstock, and I will use both magnets for that. There when you are using photopolymer in particular, photopolymer is sticky, and there are ways of stopping it being quite so sticky. So, for example, if I can find my, no, not obviously, somewhere on my desk I have got a nice white rubber. Somewhere very well hidden, apparently. Oh, there we are, very well hidden under some scraps. So what you can do is you can take a clean white rubber and just rub it over the surface of your stamp, and then clean your stamp. This is a damp baby wipe, but you can use your chamois. That will stop it being quite so sticky, which particularly for these solid ones is a good idea. You put the plates in at 90 degrees to the base, yeah, because if you try and put them in at an angle, they won't, but you might break them. So please bear that in mind. I've just thought I might as well rub my other images while I've got my white rubber out. It also means that you end up with the stamp, for a solid stamp, you end up with a cleaner stamped image. But it is a good way of making sure that things don't, that the stamp doesn't lift the paper quite so readily. I'm waffling really, aren't I? Right, so I've just got this one to do on this, just so that that's done too for this project. And you can see it's not as sticky. I say you can see, you can't because it's not on camera. Anyway, so that's how you put your plates in. I've lined up my paper against the 14 centimetre grid mark. I've got my stamp ready. I'm going to pop this down here. This one's facing up. Now, get yourself another clear mount stamp set and pop that above where your flap is, and it's just the right height for your flap to stay flat, so that when you want to ink your image, it's a flat surface. So Memento ink, and just ink that up. And of course I've just remembered I need to add in my protective backing because we're going to go off the edge, so let me just pop that in under there. And stamp down. Now do make sure you press reasonably hard so that you are fully transferring the ink. If you want it to be a darker image, you can just add more ink, which I know is off camera, but trust me, I'm adding some more ink, and then just press it down again. And there we've got our inked image there. Now I want to join this up, so I'm going to move this down my plate. I'm moving it down 2 notches, which is 2 inch, which is, oh, English is a first language. So I've moved it down 2 of the things. Each of these is 1 inch apart, is what I'm trying to say, really badly. Right, so ink that up again, and because this is lined up the way I've lined it up, it lines up! Isn't it clever? You'd think they'd planned it that way. Basically what I'm saying is this piece of grass is 2 inches long. Hoorah! So it works perfectly for the Stamparatus. So there we are. There is our beautiful stamped grass. I'm just going to wipe that with my damp wet wipe for the moment. I will ultimately clean everything up with the chamois. So I'm going to take this plate and turn it through 180 degrees and pop it back in, and then ink up the next stamp. which are the little florals, and stamp that down there, and then move this down 1, 2, 3, yeah, 3, yep. So I've moved it 2.5 inches down, which is 3 notches. Ink up my ink again, my stamp again, and stamp, and there we are. So that is that plate dealt with, and then say I'll clean this up properly with my chamois in the fullness of time. Bring in my other plate. This one goes in this side. I mean, it can go in up there if you want, but I'm using this side. Now obviously I need to move various things around. I need to move my statement of my heart. I need to move that magnet. Just check that that's going in the right place, which it is. Yep. Right, ink this up. And stamp it down. And then again, if I want it a bit darker, I can re-ink. And stamp it down again. And there we are, nice dark image. Clean that off a bit just so that I don't get dirty. Take it out, turn it through 180 degrees, and then I've got my sentiment up at the top. Just make sure my magnets aren't in the way. Pop that one down there. Oops, actually it'd be clever if I turned it over and popped it down there, wouldn't it? Yep. And then ink up my sentiment. Now do be careful with these sentiments that you don't, excuse me, over ink them, and don't go, you know, just don't add too much ink, because otherwise they do get a bit fuzzy, I think is the word I'm looking for. Right, I need to ink up again, particularly at the bottom. So I'm actually going to ink up all except for the top line again, because the top line I'm quite happy with. And then just, I'm concentrating at the bottom because that's the bit that needed to be restamped most. There we are, lovely. So that's those. Now I'm going to very carefully move my magnets to one side. Just wipe that so that it's cleanish, and then pop that all together. Now you cannot get both of these in even without stamps. Do not try and close them onto each other. You can have one closed and the other one you have to, you know, out and store it like that. Otherwise you're going to break one of your plates. And again, don't know that Stampin' Up will replace it for you. So here we are. When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. Now, I am going to add a couple of extra bits, and I'm doing that with just stamps, because I'm going to use the little butterflies, and I'm going to have one up here, one here, and then there's a little one that I will have, a little one that's sort of half flight. That's those. Then I just need to make a card. I'm going to pop it on a white card base. And do I have, oh, that would be forward planning, wouldn't it? Do I have a black? No, I don't. Ah, disaster. Right, black, here we come. I want to mount this on black, and I haven't got a matte cut. So the shimmery white was at my standard second size matte, which is 5.5 by 3 3/4. Metric will be linked below, as will the Imperial. So this I want to cut at 3 7/8, which is there. 3 7/8 by 5 5/8. 5 5/8. And again, the metric version of that will be in the blog post below. Don't ever say I never plan. Okay, so I just think that because we're doing a silhouette, that's going to be really quite pretty like that. So I am going to use Fast Fuse because it's not yet out of catalogue and it is still available. So I am going to use Fast Fuse. But you could use tear and tape, probably would be my suggestion because it's slightly wibbly from having been wet. And I am going to add a really good amount because it is slightly warped from the water. But you could use tear and tape, you could use multi-purpose liquid glue. Probably wouldn't recommend snail, purely because it's not quite as tough. But yeah, so that's that. And then our card base, let's have the card base the right way up. And pop that on there. I think I'm going to pop that up with some dimensionals. Just as a bit of fun. And just 2 more in the middle. Ooh, that's a bit off. It's better. Right. Oh. Always helps if you stick them fully down before you try and take the backings off. Because you know what? If they're not fully stuck down, the backings don't like coming off quite so easily because there's no resistance. Come along. Yep, that's off. Right. Sorry, that's where my little bin is. And then just pop that on there like that. And that is the finished project. So the idea is that it's like someone getting up in the morning and it's the sunrise. So this is the grass, and yeah, so that's my idea. So can you see that? I think that is really pretty. I love this silhouette look. I think it's stunning. There is a cyclist, there's these lovely florals, there's some really nice heartfelt sentiments, but some fun ones as well. So wake up, kick butt, repeat. I didn't think I could. I don't think I could love you more than I already do, or miss you more than I already do. Lovely stuff. How beautiful a day when can be when kindness touches it. Lovely. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it gives you some ideas and inspiration of things you might like in the new catalogue. Whilst we're still in May, remember that if you place an order with me in May and it's £25 at least, for every £25 you spend, you will be given an entry to my prize draw, which is for the Colour Caddy and all the retiring ink pad core colour families, so the neutrals, neutrals, regals, brights and subtles. And a lot of those colours are carrying over, so although it's the old style ink pad, it's still perfectly usable. And the ink caddy is already sold out. It was so popular. So you need to use the hostess code for that, but say order whatever you want for £25, multiple thereof. For every £25 multiple you will get an entry. If you buy any of the pre-release bundles, so that's the Share What You Love bundles or the ink pads, then you will, in addition to getting your entries into the draw and your usual hostess reward share and gift from me and thank you card from me, you will also get a pack of retiring designer series paper, which I will cut up to 6x6, and it'll be a selection of the retiring papers, just what I've got in my stash, and I seem to have too much, and it's just a way of me getting rid of my stash, but it means I can share it with you, and obviously you can use it. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please do subscribe. If you don't already subscribe to my newsletter and or my blog posts, you can do that over on my website, which is linked immediately below. And there is a newsletter sign up and a blog post by email sign up. So when I post on my blog, you get an email straight into your inbox to tell you that it's there. Hurrah! And then you can go and have a look at that. Thank you very much indeed for joining me today, and I will see you again very soon. Bye!